Today on the news.
Trees. Trees. Many, many trees.
Welcome to Intimacy with God, y'all, from our new apartment. We're so excited to be here with you again for this week where we are going to be diving into the word.
The word.
The single word. Just one, though.
Just one word.
One. Place.
Trees.
Trees. That's an inside joke. Sorry, y'all. So yeah, today we're talking about like the power of a place and our environment. And how our environment can ultimately be supportive of our relationships with other people.
Or not.
Or absolutely not. And also this energy of like, what am I doing here? So I don't know if some of you out there are like
What
in
am
a
I
place,
doing here?
if you're in a place right now that's like, I don't know what I'm doing here. I'm in this like weird in-between state. We're talking about that being like the waiting room for where God is preparing you next. Sometimes that can be so hard, y'all. But also like where you bear the most fruit and what God is preparing for you in all of the places that you've been, as well as all of the places that you're about to go.
With that, you want to get into the word? You want to hear the word?
The bird is the word
The
in
bird,
the trees.
the bird is the word in the trees. That, you've heard it here. We're going through the parable of the sower today, and that's Matthew 13. We're not going to do the whole thing, but we're going to jump through different sections. So, Matthew 13, that same day, Jesus went out of the house and sat by the lake. Lake's a very good place to sit.
Lakes are a great place to sit.
Yeah. Such large crowds gathered around him that he got into a boat and sat in it, while all the people stood on the shore. I find that a little bit strange.
I would be like, I'm just trying to get some peace, y'all. Can you just like, I know I'm Jesus, but can you just leave me alone so I can be in silence?
Do you think he ever said that? I know I'm Jesus. But can you just please just give me a minute?
If he did, they specifically did not record it. Because they didn't want to paint him in like an arrogant light, I think.
No, he wouldn't be arrogant. He's Jesus.
He's Jesus.
Yeah. He knows he's
in his mind,
Jesus.
he might have just been like, God, these people could just like
God.
give me 10 minutes?
Dad.
10 freaking minutes? Yeah.
Dad. Then he told them many things in parables, saying, a farmer went out to sow his seeds. As he was scattering the seed, some fell along the path. I like this. And the birds came and ate it up. There it is. Some fell on rocky places where it did not have much soil. It sprang up quickly because the soil was shallow, but when the sun came up, the plants were scorched and they withered because they had no root. That's one. Yeah, you look very withered and weathered. But when I read that bit. Other seed fell among thorns, which grew up and choked the plants. Thank you. Still other seed fell on good soil, where it produced a crop 160 or 30 times what was sown.
That's the sound that God makes.
Is it really? Wow.
Like anytime the light shines on you from like the angels, that's the sound.
That is typically the sound that you hear in film and
yeah, it's like the
TV.
sound of the rejoice.
That's the sound of God.
Yeah.
I wonder if that's what actually people heard.
I don't know where it came from otherwise.
Off topic. That's the parable, and typically we break it down and kind of explain it a little bit and make it a bit more relatable. But lucky for us, Jesus has done that already on this one.
Actually, Matthew has done that.
Well, that's
Matthew did that for us.
Matthew via Jesus, or Jesus via Matthew. So we'll get into that, because the disciples asked, "Why you speak in parables?" And
why is that always a story with you, Jesus? Why is it always got to be? Why don't you just tell the people how it is?
So listen. Then.
That was aggressive. We're apologizing. I was excited.
It was excitement.
Just excited, yeah.
Listen then. I've lost it now. Listen then to what the parable of the sower means. When anyone hears the message about the kingdom and does not understand it, the evil one comes and snatches away what was sown in their heart.
That's the bird, y'all.
This is the seed sown along the path.
So it's that moment of, like, we were talking about this a little bit earlier, where I was kind of visualizing, like, the farmer is reaching into his satchel, and he has a handful of seeds, but, like, naturally, ignorantly, some fall out onto the path, and then the birds get them. And so these are, like, lost ideas, lost messages, you know, that then anybody, anywhere could come and consume for themselves.
And we naturally are relating this to relationship and relationships as well. And I saw this as being if you don't recognize the value of the person that's in front of you, then someone else will do and will come and take them away.
Take that person. Like, hindsight, y'all, have any of you been in like a situation where you're dating and that's been the case? Is like you didn't see the value until like hindsight 2020, and then they start dating your friend or something, and you're like, wow, that person's amazing, and I really fudged that up.
Yeah, good self-censorship there. Yeah, I like that.
Doing my best.
Yeah, but also you spoke into how you saw it as even if you're in partnership and someone is offering some kindness or love to their partner and it's not being received because of challenges they're experiencing or other people that are infringing upon their ability to receive, then that just gets wasted and lost.
It's wasted. Like if your partner compliments you, but you're just like, I just
you're
saying that because they're nice.
Well, you're too in your story to actually receive it fully.
Yeah.
Then it's wasted.
Those seeds don't get sown. You start to not be able to see how you actually are an incredible person or how you actually do have these skills to offer. And so that to us is like the wasted seed. There's like an ignorance that comes with that. And I think that ignorance comes from self-absorption in a way that's like not necessarily negative, but just like so caught up in the internal story that it's challenging to receive the feedback. It's challenging to receive the word from God. It's challenging for those seeds to then be planted in your heart because there's some element inside that still doesn't have the faith that that could be true for you.
And maybe you've recognized this in your life where your partner is trying to be loving and caring and nurturing, but it's not that someone comes and gets in the way, but there's a thought or there's a challenge you've experienced earlier that day or someone's pissed you off and it's preventing you from actually fully receiving.
Right.
That's definitely been true for me, and I presume that's been true for you too. I don't want to speak for you, but I know that it has been.
It also makes me think of like if you were trying to plant seeds in like soil that you just can't quite get into. It's like so dense, you know, so the seed just sits on the surface. It's like, oh, it's just not a good place to plant it.
Yeah.
Let's continue on the journey.
Yes.
So if you don't really respect the seed or in a position to be able to receive the seed, evil, the birds, somebody else is going to come in and snatch it.
The seed falling on rocky ground refers to someone who hears the word. Have you did that one? No. Seed falling on rocky ground refers to someone who hears the word and at once receives it with joy, but since they have no root, they last only a short time. When troubles or persecution comes because of the word, they quickly fall away. So,
lack of rooted.
For me, this speaks into maybe you've gotten into a relationship very, very quickly and it's been, you know, fireworks and amazing for the honeymoon period. But then when challenge comes along, when trouble comes along, because there's not deep roots there, the relationship crumbles.
Yeah, like where is the foundation? And if it hasn't been built and it's just been this like, oh my God, yes.
Yeah.
So amazing.
Yeah.
I don't need to know about your trauma.
Oh, that's future us's problem.
Yeah. So then when the harsh conditions come, the storms of relationship come, the storms of life come.
Which
like,
they will, which they do.
They do, inevitably. Like, how are you or how are you not managing?
Yeah, and if you've not put the time in to create deep roots for a relationship, then when that trouble comes, it's going to be really difficult to maintain that tether.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Or if you don't have solid roots within yourself and like your own confidence, like what's coming up for me in this moment is like codependency. So if you don't have solid, firmly planted roots of your own sense of self-worth and your own confidence, then if you're putting all your eggs in your partner's basket and then those storms come, you're going to expect your partner to be the one that fixes things and that gets you right. and recenters you. And we see so much, at least I've seen so much in my life, in codependent areas and in my own personal life and what I've witnessed in friends and family, where that just absolutely destroys the relationship, but also, again, that sense of self-confidence and self-worth within the individual.
Right. So they're not deep-rooted in themselves when they go into relationship.
Or they try to place all their roots into the other person's seed. That's how I really see codependency. It's like, I'm just going to try to plant my roots in your seed, trusting that you're going to hold me and that your roots are deep enough and that your roots are strong enough to carry us both.
And then you can end up suffocating the other person.
Yeah, of course.
I mean, that's kind of where we're going with the seeds. The seeds falling among the thorns refer to someone who hears the word, but the worries of this life and the deceitfulness of wealth choke the word, making it unfruitful. And for me, this speaks into partly what you were saying there, where if you're putting your seeds in someone else's roots, then you can grow and suffocate them, or they end up suffocating you because you're not able to root properly.
Right, and I feel so many people lose their identity in that process. It's like, I'm just going to give myself to you, and now you are the steward and you're the responsible one for every element and aspect of my life. And if I can't depend on you, then where do I go? Because I can't depend on myself, which is why I'm giving myself to you in the first place.
And maybe that's happened to you. Maybe you have been in a relationship where either you or the person you're with has been codependent, and that has had a negative impact on you. You've lost your sense of self and your independence and your sovereignty because you've been having to caretake for this other individual.
Yeah.
For me,
that can feel like thorns.
Yeah.
Fears, I think, can feel like thorns. Insecurities can be thorns. Like anything, like this is talking about suffocation. It's like anything that robs us or you of your ability to feel free to grow in the way that you want to grow, in the way that you need to adapt. Anything that makes you feel like you're limited or stunting your growth. I really see these as like examples of that.
I also, to continue that, if you're trying to nurture a relationship, the seeds of a relationship, and you're in an environment that doesn't do that, that doesn't nourish, then that's going to be really difficult. It's going to end up, it could, and maybe has, suffocated the potential of the relationship because the environment isn't supportive enough. And that's being around the right people.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Maybe we're going to get into that in a little bit, I think.
Okay, yeah.
We want to get into it now? No, we'll carry on. Because carry on. Keep calm. Carry on. Because there's only one left. But the seeds falling on good soil refers to someone who hears the word and understands it. This is the one who produces a crop yielding 160 or 30 times what was sown.
Think of like an apple tree. So you have one apple seed that produces billions of apples in its lifetime. I don't know if it's billions, but a lot
It's a lot of apples.
It's a lot of apples.
Well, think of all the apples that turn into trees that then create their own fruit. That's a lot of apples.
That's abundance, baby.
Yeah.
That's abundance.
The seeds that we end up planting, whether that be the ideas, the relationships, when they are put in the right space, in the right places, they fruit not just for the person who planted it, but also for future generations, for future people that we can't even comprehend are going to get to enjoy the fruits of that seed.
Yeah, totally.
Think about all the people that your relationship impacts, whether positively or negatively, and how that cascades over time. Your challenge in relationship, that argument that you had out in public that then impacted the people who experienced it, that then carried that into their lives and affected people that weren't even there, it has a compounding effect. And equally, if you're in a very strong, nurturing, loving relationship and you're around people who get to enjoy that and witness that, then that feeds into their relationships and has a positive cascading effect.
Yeah, it makes me think of what you were saying, where it's like, are you the couple that's just hanging out with couples that are fighting all the time, or like creating really toxic environments, or like,
Single people.
Single people, like you're a couple who's hanging out with single people who are just like super struggling in relationship. It's like probably not the best environment for you to go get relationship advice from. Or yeah, probably not like going to those couples. So it's like, oh, we're gonna go because we feel like we gotta go, but they like every time at dinner they argue. It's like, no, you get to decide like, is this an environment that I feel like I thrive in, or that we feel like we thrive in as a couple? And if it isn't, you get to have the sovereign authority to take a step away from that and plant yourself in communities, in other relationships that are promoting positivity, that are promoting healthy relationships, that are having deeper, more meaningful conversations. And this is like an invitation if you're like, I actually feel like that's us right now, to consider that. That's like, what would actually make us feel like we're thriving in connection with other people?
Yeah.
What feeds the nourishment of our relationship by being in connection to and in the same energy with these other people or these other communities?
Or maybe you're seeking partnership. And is the environment that you're in supportive to actually finding that relationship that you're seeking? If you're around people who are chronically single and not wanting to enjoy relationship, then is that the right environment for you to get the support you need to find the relationship you're desiring?
Something that's coming through is like, there might be some couples out there, and this might feel really sensitive, where when you tune in, you're like, oh my gosh, I think we're that couple. I think we're that couple. Like maybe we were hanging out with other couples, but the other couples have stopped hanging out with us as much. Okay. And we feel like now we don't have anybody. It's like, what's going on? There's an opportunity there to be like, wow, where do we need to recalibrate as individuals and also as a unit, so that we aren't feeding that part of us that is caught in unhealthy or toxic behaviors or patterns. So if that is you and you're having this awareness, it's like, oh, dang. We got to shift some things here. And that might mean that as individuals, you need to put yourselves in other more supportive environments so that you aren't bringing so much tension and aggression or projection or blame into your relationship.
Yeah.
Just feeding like fire with fire all the time.
And that can be really difficult because, you know, if someone steps away from you, it can be really easy to go, oh, it's them. It's not me. Right?
Yeah.
They can't deal with how awesome I am.
Yeah. Meanwhile, the other person's like,
it couldn't
wow,
possibly
this person
be me.
does not stop talking trash and they're gossiping like crazy. I just don't want to be around that.
Yeah.
And I think that's that ignorance piece that we were talking about. It's like, where are you as an individual potentially ignorant to the impact that you're having on the people around you, and also vice versa, the impact that other people have on you? And where are you not stepping up for yourself in an effort to change your environment so you actually feel like you're supported and you feel like you're thriving? And sometimes that means leaving the environment that you're in an effort to plant seeds in a new place that you know or have some vision of is going to support your growth.
And I want to speak chiming in with that. If you're in partnership and you're experiencing challenge within the relationship, this isn't necessarily to say you should leave your relationship and go and, you know, plant yourself in better soil. It's saying, okay, maybe as a unit and individually, there is an opportunity to create a bit of space and allow yourselves to thrive and deepen your roots and strengthen, so that as a unit, you can be more fruitful.
Yeah.
That making sense?
Yeah, of course.
And maybe you are experiencing challenge in relationship. Where is it you can create the space you're wanting and communicate that in a healthy way, that your partner doesn't feel like they're being rejected or pushed away, but it's for the nurturance of the relationship? Or maybe as a unit, you need to relocate to an area that will support you.
I think of a classic example of that that's easily relatable is like when you relocate for a job. It's like this job pays better and it has better benefits. And so unfortunately, we've got to leave this place that we've been living because there's more opportunity over here. You know, that's like an easily relatable example.
Yeah, I mean,
more challenging, I think, when it's like, about a relationship specifically, or even friendships where it's like, oh, I've been here for so many years. I don't necessarily know if I want to leave it, but when I tune into how this relationship or friendship or intimate encounter is making me feel, it's just not thriving. Or like, oh my God, yes, I love this person. Every time I'm around this person, I feel energized. I feel lit up. I feel inspired, right? It's like there's a part of our soul that goes, let's follow that thread.
Yeah.
Because that really feels like it's taking me somewhere.
And that can be challenging, right?
Yeah, of course.
If you're used to being in the soil where you're suffocating, and that's just normal for you,
you wouldn't know different.
You wouldn't know different. Apart from that very sliver of consciousness that's going, something just isn't quite right.
Yeah.
I don't know what. I don't know how to change it, but something isn't quite right. And that's, tying it into tantric teachings. That's that divine spark of consciousness in us that leads us back home.
Yeah.
And getting the opportunity to listen to that and see what it has to say.
Yeah.
And that's challenging. That's partly why we do couples development work, is because, you recognize that there's something that needs addressing, but you don't know how to do it in a way that's supportive.
Yeah, of course. And it makes me think of like where we're moving to is like how every place in our life, there is this element of God doing God's work on us, through us, in that particular place. Something that I've been reflecting on a lot is like, what is the power of the place that I'm currently in? Like, what are the opportunities that this current place is offering me? But also, like, when I reflect back on my past, it was like, now that I'm out of it, right, I can see so much more clearly what God was doing and developing within me in those places.
Right.
But when you, like, my friend said this the other day, he's like, you can't read the label when you're in the jar. And I was like, he's like, you could use that. So thank you, Dad. I'm using that right now. It's so perfect. Like, when you're in it, you might not be able to see clearly, like, okay, God, like, what are you doing with me in this moment? Because all I'm experiencing and all I'm feeling is challenged and disheartened and fatigued and exhausted. But you recognize maybe even a year later or 6 months later, it was like, of course. Oh my God, of course.
It was preparing me.
Yeah.
Right.
It was preparing me. Preparing us, even as in relationships. Like, what is this season of your relationship preparing you for?
Right.
Is it family? Is it a new venture? Is it a new business? Is it adventure?
Yeah. Oh, that really challenging period in my life that I went through, as much as it sucked at the time, now I see that it was preparing me to be able to hold this thing, because without that, I wouldn't be able to do this.
I think about that actually with our independent ventures as like an anecdote for y'all out there, is like, for me, it's now, like decades later, it's so clear for me why I went through the experiences that I went through as a child, and like the trauma and abuse that I endured, so that I could really be an advocate and an activist and a catalyst for other people to be able to see how that's actually developing their character around boundaries, around time and energy, around physical strength, around sovereignty and safety and security within one's own self. And I see as a reflection of yours is like, with yoga and also mind yoga, you were really seeking like connection. And you went to the yoga world and you still weren't able to seek it, because yoga was very much like an independent practice. It wasn't a community practice per se.
Independent and somewhat superficial.
Right. And so now you're like taking people on that journey that's like, people want connection. That was so much your story. It's like, I want to feel connected.
Yeah, I want that intimacy. And by intimacy, I don't mean bedroom intimacy. I mean deep emotional connection. And yeah, the journey that I went on, being able to get to this point of being able to do that. And maybe you're experiencing something yourself. Maybe you're in a period of challenge right now, a period of hardship. And there is that element of, maybe I need to relocate. But there's also, well, I'm in it right now.
Yeah.
How can I have patience with it? And I think of, well, if you want the harvest, you have to wait for the seed to root and to germinate and to grow.
And you gotta water it, and you gotta check on it, and you gotta like check the conditions around it. You know, I think about having like plant babies. Shout out to all my plant mamas and plant people out there. Having plant babies and like checking on it's like, oh, is this getting enough sunlight? Is my soil getting enough nutrients? I think about our avocado tree inside the meditation room that was like suffering. It was suffering and it was so ugly and it looked terrible. And I was like, I think this just needs to be outside. And so when I put it outside, you know, then all of a sudden it just started like flourishing. I was like, it's because it was in the wrong environment. Didn't matter what I did to it, it wasn't going to thrive.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's like that in life. It's like, it doesn't matter how we try to remedy the situation. We could work our ass off and do all the internalized work to be okay. And sometimes it's actually just that the environment is not conducive.
Yeah. Food for thought there. I feel complete with that.
I do too.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for tuning in with us. We hope this serves you. Please let us know in the comments what's landing, what you're curious about. If you have questions, we'd love to continue the dialogue down below. And yeah, we look forward to seeing you next week. Or who knows what we'll be talking about. Only God knows.
Amen.
Amen, baby. Have a great day.